Rain hammered against the tall windows of Richard Cole's mansion as thunder rolled in the distance. The chandelier flickered slightly, and a glass of wine trembled in his hand. His phone vibrated on the marble table. Another calendar reminder. "Happy birthday, Richard," the automated voice assistant announced. He stared at the untouched birthday cake on the table. 12 candles burning, none blown out. 60 years old today. No one to celebrate with. He turned off the reminder, leaned back and let out a quiet laugh that sounded more like a sigh. 60 years, built empires, raised 3 children, lost 1 wife, and somehow still ended up here. Maria, his longtime housekeeper, appeared at the door, wiping her hands on a towel. "Sir, you should eat something before the food gets cold." Richard forced a small smile. "You're still here, Maria. Guess that makes one of us." "I'm always here, Mr. Cole. You know that." She placed a plate of roasted chicken in front of him. Steam rose into the quiet air. Across from him sat 3 neatly wrapped gifts, one from each child, delivered earlier by courier. No one came in person. He looked at them, expensive, emotionless. Maria noticed the disappointment in his eyes. "You raised good children, sir. Maybe they're just busy." "Busy?" He chuckled bitterly. "Sophie's probably posting her new fitness line on social media. Ethan's chasing board meetings, but then Liam, who knows what city he's in this week." Maria hesitated, then said softly, "Still, they're your family." Richard picked up his glass. "Family? A word people use when they need something." Lightning flashed. For a second, his reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Tired eyes, silver hair, a suit that fit perfectly but meant nothing. Later that night, after Maria had gone to bed, Richard wandered into his study. He opened a drawer and took out a photo, his late wife, Helen, smiling at their 3 children when they were still small. That was before money changed everything. He whispered to the picture, "Would they care if I were gone tomorrow?" He sat there until his phone buzzed again, a message from his eldest son, Ethan. Open quote, "Ethan, happy birthday, Dad. Hope you're feeling well. Don't forget we have that investors meeting next week." Close quote. "No, I love you. No, see you soon." He placed the phone down, emotionless. Then another message popped up from Sophie. Open quote, "Sophie, happy birthday, Daddy wish I could come, but filming a brand collab. Let's celebrate when I'm back. Love oo." Close quote. "Love you," he muttered. "Sure." And finally, a short message from Liam, the youngest. Open quote, Liam, "Hey Dad, sorry, I forgot it was today. You doing okay?" Close quote. Richard smiled faintly. The message was honest at least. "I'm doing great, son. Just wondering what family really means these days." He typed it but didn't send it. He deleted the message instead and stared at the empty chat. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, something dark began to form, a thought he couldn't shake off. The next morning, Richard sat in his doctor's office, listening half-heartedly as Dr. Patel read through his health report. "You're in excellent shape, Mr. Cole. For 60, your numbers are impressive. You should live another 30 years easily." Richard smiled faintly. "That's the problem, Doc. I don't know if anyone would care if I did." The doctor chuckled politely, unsure how to respond. On his way out, Richard passed through the waiting area. A young man sat in a wheelchair, pale and weak, surrounded by his wife and 2 children. They laughed, wiped his forehead, whispered encouragement. Their love filled the space like sunlight. Richard stopped for a moment and watched silently. The man's daughter hugged his arm and said, "You're not going anywhere, Daddy. We need you." Richard turned away, swallowed hard, and walked out. By the time he got into his car, a plan had already begun to form in his mind. Reckless, absurd, but powerful. That night he called his lawyer, Mr. Blake. "Blake, I need you to make a statement, discreetly. Tell the kids I've been diagnosed with a rare heart condition. Nothing dramatic, just serious enough to make them worried." Blake hesitated. "Sir, that's a very dangerous kind of game. What's the purpose?" Richard's tone was calm. "I want to see something. I want to know who they are when they think I'm not going to be around. Richard, if this gets out of hand, just do it." He hung up before Blake could protest. Maria overheard part of the conversation as she entered with tea. "Sir, what was that about?" Richard looked at her. "A small experiment." "An experiment?" He nodded. "To test what love really looks like." Maria frowned. "Some truths hurt more than lies." Richard sighed. "Then maybe it's time I found out which one hurts worse." 2 days later, the news spread quietly among the family. Richard Cole, billionaire CEO of Coal Industries, was battling a severe heart condition. Ethan was the first to call. "Dad, why didn't you tell us?" Richard sounded tired. "Didn't want to worry you, son. It's not fatal yet." Ethan's tone softened. "I'll come over tomorrow. We should talk about your company succession, just in case anything happens. Investors will need reassurance." Richard smiled bitterly. "Of course, investors first." "What?" "Nothing. See you tomorrow." He ended the call. An hour later, Sophie called, her voice trembling but practiced. "Dad, oh my God, I just saw the article. Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to disturb your work, sweetheart." No, this is important. I'll come home this weekend. We'll make a family video or something, to raise awareness, and I'll make sure everyone sends love your way." "Right, awareness." "What?" "Nothing. See you soon, Sophie." After hanging up, Richard whispered, "Even my sickness is content now." By evening, Liam texted, open quote, "Heard about your condition. Are you okay, Dad? I can fly in if you want." "I'll be fine. Just a routine checkup turned serious." "Let me come. It's been too long." "If you want to, son, no pressure." Close quote. He stared at the last message for a long time. Maybe one of them still cared. Maybe. The next morning, Maria was cleaning when Richard found her in the kitchen. "They're all coming back," he said. She looked up. "All three?" He nodded. "Ethan tomorrow, Sophie on Saturday, Liam by Sunday." Maria sighed. "And what happens when they come? We'll see who's here for me and who's here for my money." She looked uneasy. "You're playing with fire, sir." He smiled faintly. "Then let's see who gets burned." Ethan arrived first. Sharp suit, perfect smile, expensive cologne. He entered the mansion as if he owned it. "Dad," he said warmly, hugging Richard briefly. "You look good, all things considered." "Still breathing," Richard said dryly. They sat in the study. Ethan wasted no time. "Listen, Dad, you've built something incredible. But if your health is uncertain, maybe it's time to think about long-term control. The board is nervous. We can shift some shares to my name temporarily, just to stabilize things." Richard studied him quietly. "You came to see me or my stocks?" Ethan froze. "Dad, come on. I'm just being practical." "Of course. Look, I'll handle everything. You just focus on your health. Okay?" Richard nodded. "Sure, Ethan. You always know how to handle things." Ethan smiled, confident he'd just proven himself the perfect son. When he left the room, Maria entered, shaking her head. "He smells like greed." Richard chuckled sadly. "At least greed smells expensive." Sophie arrived the next day in a rush of perfume and camera flashes. Her assistant followed with bags. "Dad!" she cried, hugging him tightly. "You didn't tell me it was this serious. Oh my God, you look pale." He smiled faintly. "It's called being 60. She giggled nervously. "I'm going to post a short video about this, something emotional. People love father-daughter stories. It'll help raise awareness about heart health." He stared at her. "An engagement, right?" "Dad!" she laughed. "Don't be cynical. I just want people to know how strong you are." Richard sighed, leaned back and closed his eyes. "Strong enough to survive love that only exists on camera." "What?" "Nothing, sweetheart. Do whatever you think helps." That night, Maria found him alone in his study again. "Two down," she said quietly. "One left." Richard nodded. "Let's see if the last one breaks my heart or saves it." The next afternoon, Richard stood by the living room window as a car pulled into the driveway. Liam stepped out. Casual jacket, messy hair, tired eyes. He looked nothing like his polished brother or influencer sister. There was a rawness in him, unfiltered, human. Richard met him at the door. "Dad," Liam said, uncertain. "Son." They hugged awkwardly. It had been nearly 2 years since they'd last seen each other. "You look good," Liam said. "You too, though I'm not sure you believe me about this heart condition." Liam sighed. "Honestly, I don't know what to believe. You've always been indestructible. Even rocks crack eventually." They sat down by the fireplace. Maria brought coffee, but didn't linger. Liam looked around the room. "It hasn't changed. Neither have you," Richard said quietly. "Still running from everything?" Liam chuckled softly. "Still judging everything?" They both smiled faintly, a rare, genuine moment. After a pause, Richard asked, "So what brings you back? Pity? Guilt?" Liam looked at him sharply. "You think I came here for money?" "I think you came because you heard I was dying." Liam stared into his cup. "Maybe I came because I didn't want you to die thinking we never cared." Richard didn't reply. The silence between them said everything. That night, after Liam went to bed, Maria found Richard staring at the family portrait on the wall. "He came," she said softly. "He did." Richard whispered, "But I don't know if that means anything. Sometimes showing up is the hardest part. Sometimes it's just habit," he murmured. "People show up when death enters the room, not when love leaves it." Over the next few days, the mansion became crowded. Ethan spent hours on his laptop, making necessary business arrangements. Sophie walked around filming videos of her dad's courageous battle. Liam stayed mostly silent, spending quiet evenings with his father, watching old family tapes. One night, as they watched a clip of a younger Richard tossing the kids in a swimming pool, Liam laughed. "You used to smile all the time back then." Richard replied softly, "That was before money made me everyone's job." Liam turned to him. "You think money ruined us? I think it revealed us." Liam frowned. "Then what are you trying to find out now?" Richard met his gaze. "Whether there's still anything left worth saving." Liam hesitated. "Dad, you could just talk to us. I've been talking for years, son. None of you heard a word until you thought I was dying." That silenced Liam. The next morning, Richard found Ethan and Sophie arguing in the study. "I'm the eldest. I should oversee Dad's estate," Ethan snapped. Sophie rolled her eyes. "Please, you just want control of the company. Don't act noble." "I'm protecting what he built." "You're protecting your ego. Enough!" Richard's voice boomed through the room. They both froze. "You think this is about money," he said. "While I'm sitting here supposedly dying, you two are already dividing the ashes?" Sophie lowered her eyes. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, that's not fair," Ethan began. "Not fair? What's not fair is realizing your children only come home when they smell inheritance in the air." Sophie's eyes glistened. "That's not true." "Then prove it," he said quietly. Neither could answer. Liam, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped in. "He's right. None of us have been around unless we needed something." Ethan turned. "Stay out of this, Liam. You've done the least for this family. At least I didn't show up with a contract." "Guys," Sophie cried, "can we not do this right now?" "Why not?" Richard snapped. "This is the most honest conversation we've had in years." He stood, his hand shaking slightly, though not from sickness, but from suppressed emotion. "Get out, all of you. I need air." He walked to the garden, leaving them speechless. That night, Maria found him sitting by the fountain, staring into the water. "You got what you wanted," she said quietly. "You saw their true colours." Richard shook his head. "Not yet. I need to be sure." "Sure of what? Who's here for love and who's here for the will?" Maria sighed. "This will destroy what little you have left." "Then maybe it was never real to begin with." He stood and looked toward the house. "Tomorrow I'll call the lawyer. We'll make it official." The next day he gathered his children in the living room. "I've spoken to Mr. Blake," he announced. "We'll have a small dinner tomorrow night. I'll be reading my will." Sophie's eyes widened. "Will? Dad, it's too soon to—" "Life's unpredictable," Richard said evenly. "I'd rather settle things while I can still speak for myself." Ethan exchanged a quick glance with Sophie, both trying to hide their excitement. Liam looked uneasy. "Dad," he said quietly, "you don't have to do this." "I do," Richard replied. "It's time I found out who's really been listening all these years." He left the room, leaving a tense silence behind. Ethan muttered, "He's bluffing." Sophie whispered, "Even if he isn't, we'll find out soon enough." Liam didn't say a word. He just stared after his father, worry clouding his eyes. That evening, as the sun set, Liam knocked on Richard's door. "Come in," Richard said. Liam entered hesitantly. "Dad, I need to ask, are you really dying?" Richard looked at him. The question cut deeper than he expected. "Why do you ask?" "Because something doesn't add up. You look fine, you walk fine, you sound fine." Richard chuckled softly. "So you're saying I don't look sick enough to be dying?" Liam frowned. "I'm saying it feels like you're testing us." Richard's smile faded. "And if I am?" Liam hesitated. "Then maybe I don't blame you, but it hurts, Dad. You can't fake death to find love." Richard looked away. "Sometimes it's the only way to see who cries when you're gone, or who stops trusting you when you're still alive." That hit him hard. Richard didn't reply. Liam stood there a moment longer, then said quietly, "Whatever this is, I hope you find what you're looking for." He walked out, leaving his father staring into the dim light. The next day, The mansion buzzed with uneasy energy. The long dining table was set for dinner. Mr. Blake arrived with a briefcase and papers. Maria stood in the corner, silent but watchful. Ethan wore a new suit. Sophie adjusted her makeup. Liam looked like he hadn't slept. Richard entered slowly, pretending to be weaker than he was. "Let's begin," he said. Blake cleared his throat. "This is Mr. Cole's preliminary will as requested." Sophie held Ethan's hand nervously. "As of today," Blake read, "Mr. Richard Cole leaves the majority of his estate to the Cole Foundation, a charitable trust aimed at supporting underprivileged families." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Additionally, a personal fund is to be created for Ms. Maria Alvarez for her loyalty and years of service." Sophie gasped. Ethan's hand slammed against the table. "You can't be serious!" Richard raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I'm quite serious." "What about us?" Sophie demanded. "You'll get something too," Richard said softly. A reminder of what matters. Blake handed each of them an envelope. Inside were childhood photos and a handwritten letter. Sophie's hands shook as she read hers. Ethan crumpled his. Liam didn't open his. Ethan exploded. "You're giving away our inheritance to a maid?" Maria flinched. Richard's voice hardened. "She gave me something you never did care." "You're insane," Ethan shouted. "You've lost it." "Maybe. Or maybe I've just found my sanity." The tension grew thick. Sophie burst into tears. "Dad, this isn't fair. We love you." "Do you?" he asked quietly. "Or do you love what I can give you?" "Both," she cried. Liam finally spoke. "Stop. You've made your point." Ethan glared at him. "You knew about this, didn't you?" "I didn't," Liam said, "but I understand why he did it." Sophie sobbed. "This family is falling apart." Richard looked around at them, his heart pounding, not from illness but from emotion. "It already fell apart," he said softly. "Blake, I'm just showing you the pieces." The room went silent, and then, without warning, he stood tall, strong, steady, the sickness gone. Ethan froze. What is this?" Richard met his eyes. "The truth." The silence in the dining room was deafening. The flickering chandelier light cast long shadows across their faces as the truth sank in. Sophie was the first to speak, her voice trembling. "You're not sick." Richard exhaled slowly. "No, Sophie, I'm not." Ethan's face twisted in disbelief. "You mean this was all a test?" Richard finished. Sophie stood abruptly, her chair scraping across the floor. "You lied to us. You made us believe." "I made you believe what you wanted to believe." Richard interrupted, his voice calm but heavy. "You came running only when you thought I was dying. That says more than any will ever could." Ethan's voice cracked with rage. "You manipulated your own children. For what? To prove you're the victim?" "I didn't want to be the victim," Richard said sharply. "I wanted to know if I still mattered beyond the bank account." Sophie covered her face. "I can't believe you'd go this far." Maria, standing by the doorway, whispered, "He just wanted to see love, Sophie. Pure love." Ethan turned on her. "Stay out of this, Maria. You've already been paid for your loyalty." Richard's eyes darkened. "Enough. You will not speak to her that way." "Oh, come on," Ethan snapped. "You're defending her now? The woman who helped you fake an illness? Do you even hear yourself?" "She was the only one here when everyone else left," Richard said quietly. "When I was alone, she checked if I'd eaten. When I had no reason to smile, she gave me one. And you call that manipulation?" Sophie's tears came harder. "Dad, we're sorry, okay? We were wrong. But this is cruel." Richard's voice softened. "Sometimes truth feels cruel because it strips away what's comfortable." Liam, who had been silent, finally stepped forward. "You've made your point, Dad, but you've also hurt them. This isn't how you rebuild a family." Richard turned to him. "And how do you rebuild something that only exists when money is involved?" "By forgiving," Liam said simply. "By starting with honesty, not revenge." The words lingered in the air. Ethan slammed his hands on the table. "You're unbelievable. You played us like fools, and for what? To feel superior?" Richard met his gaze. "To feel something real." "You think this is real?" Ethan spat. "You think love can come from humiliation?" Richard took a deep breath. "No, Ethan. But maybe guilt can remind people of love they forgot." Ethan's eyes filled with tears he didn't expect. He looked down, trembling with anger and shame. "You wanted to know if we cared? Fine, I cared, I worried. I made plans to visit you every weekend, but now I wish you really were sick." Sophie gasped. "Ethan," he turned to her. "No, he needs to hear it. He deserves it." Richard's face tightened, not with rage but pain. Get out, he said quietly. What? Get out! Ethan froze, realizing the weight behind his father's voice. Fine, he muttered. Enjoy your little social experiment. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The echo rang through the mansion like thunder. Sophie sobbed harder. This family is cursed. No, Richard said softly. It's just broken. Hours later, Sophie sat in the dark hallway, scrolling through her phone. Her latest video, the one titled My Father's Final Days, had over 300,000 views. Comments flooded the screen. Stay strong! You're so brave, sending prayers. She stared at it, her heart sinking. Richard appeared behind her. That's what you wanted, right? She jumped slightly. I didn't do it for fame. He raised an eyebrow. Didn't you? Tears welled up. I wanted people to see that I cared. Did you need an audience for that? She bit her lip. I thought if people saw, they'd see me differently. Not the spoiled one. The caring one, he sighed. Sophie, love isn't content. It's quiet. It doesn't need applause. She looked down. I don't know how to do quiet. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Then start learning. The world's full of noise. Maybe it's time we start listening. She nodded weakly, unable to speak. The next morning, Richard sat alone in his study, staring at the photo of his late wife, Elaine. Her smile seemed to mock him, soft, knowing. You'd hate what I've done, he whispered. You always said the truth would set people free. I think I just trapped them instead. The door opened quietly. Liam stepped in, holding 2 cups of coffee. Figured you might need one. Richard accepted it with a faint smile. You always were the peacemaker. Liam sat across from him. I don't know about that. I just can't stand watching us fall apart. Richard nodded slowly. You think I went too far? I think you went as far as pain pushed you. Richard looked out the window. Maybe I did, but if I hadn't, would any of you have come home? Liam hesitated. Maybe not, but what's home worth if everyone's here for the wrong reasons? That's the question that kept me awake, Richard murmured. Liam leaned forward. You wanted to test us. Fine. You saw what you needed to see. Now what? Richard looked at him, his expression weary. Now I don't know. Then start fixing it, Liam said. Not with money, with time, with us. Richard smiled faintly. You sound like your mother. I'll take that as a compliment. Later that day, Maria found Sophie packing her things. You're leaving? She asked. Sophie wiped her tears. What's left to stay for? Maybe forgiveness. Sophie laughed bitterly. Forgiveness? He lied to us. So did you, Maria said gently. You lied every time you said you were too busy to visit, every time you smiled for your followers instead of for your father. Sophie's lip trembled. You think I'm a bad daughter? I think you're lost. Maria said softly, and lost people don't need judgment, they need direction. Sophie sank onto the bed. I don't even know who I am without the fame. Then go find out, Maria whispered, but don't leave without saying goodbye. Not this time. Sophie nodded slowly, tears falling. That night, Richard stood on the balcony, watching the city lights shimmer in the distance. Liam joined him. Ethan hasn't called, Richard said. He will, Liam replied. He just needs time to cool down. I don't deserve their forgiveness, Richard murmured. Maybe not, but you deserve peace. Richard looked at him. And what about you? Don't you hate me for this? Liam smiled faintly. I hate what you did, but I understand why. Richard's eyes softened. You're a better man than I ever was. Then maybe your plan wasn't a failure, Liam said. It brought me home. They both laughed quietly. A few days later, Ethan returned. He stood at the front door, his face tired, his eyes red. Richard opened the door himself. Ethan hesitated. Can we talk? Richard nodded silently and stepped aside. They sat in the study, the same room where the argument had started. Ethan took a deep breath. I shouldn't have said what I did. I shouldn't have lied, Richard said. Ethan nodded. You wanted to see if we cared. I did, Dad. I really did. But you made it impossible to prove. Richard's voice was low. I was desperate. Ethan looked away. You didn't need a test. You just needed to ask for us. Richard smiled sadly. I did, Ethan, for years. You just didn't hear it until now. Ethan swallowed hard. So what now? Now, Richard said softly. We start over. If you'll let me. Ethan blinked back tears. I'd like that. They shook hands, then pulled each other into a long, silent hug. Sophie returned later that evening, quietly walking into the living room. Maria smiled warmly at her. You came back, Sophie nodded. I couldn't leave things this way. Richard walked in, surprised. "Sophie?" She bit her lip. "I'm sorry. I was selfish. I should have been here long before the lie." He stepped closer. "And I should have told you the truth long before the test." She smiled faintly through her tears. "So we're both idiots." "Apparently," he said with a small laugh. They embraced, for the first time in years, without tension. Later that night, the family sat together in the garden. No arguments, no money talk, just quiet laughter. Richard looked at each of them, his heart lighter than it had been in years. He raised his glass. "To second chances," Sophie smiled. "And fewer secrets," Ethan chuckled. "And maybe fewer tests," Liam added. "And to finally acting like a family again." They clinked glasses. The air felt new, fragile but hopeful. Maria watched from the window, smiling to herself. For once, the Cole mansion was filled with something money couldn't buy. Peace. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Sometimes, love just needs to be tested to be rediscovered. The morning sun filtered softly through the tall windows of the Cole mansion. For the first time in months, the house felt alive in a peaceful way. No shouting, no plotting, no bitterness. Just quiet conversations and laughter over breakfast. Maria placed a plate of pancakes on the table. "If I'd known pretending to die would bring you all home," she joked lightly, "I would have done it myself." Everyone laughed, even Richard. "Don't give them ideas," he said. Ethan smirked. "Relax, Dad, we're done with tests for now." Sophie smiled. "I actually slept well last night. I forgot what that felt like." Liam nodded. "Guess that's what happens when there's no tension in the air." Richard looked at his 3 children. "I don't deserve this peace, but I'll take it." Sophie reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You do, Dad. Maybe we all needed to hit rock bottom before climbing out." Ethan chuckled. "Well, at least we're climbing together this time." The moment was warm, fragile, but genuine. By afternoon, however, that peace began to tremble. Sophie's phone buzzed non-stop. Notifications poured in. She frowned and opened her social media app. Her heart dropped. Trending. Billionaire fakes terminal illness to manipulate family. There it was, her father's secret, plastered across every news site. Someone had leaked it. She gasped. "Oh my God." Ethan looked up from his laptop. "What is it?" She turned the screen toward him. "It's everywhere." He scanned the headline, his face going pale. "No, how did this get out?" Liam rushed in. "What's going on?" Sophie handed him the phone. "It's viral." Within hours, cameras gathered outside their gates. Journalists shouted through the intercom. Drones hovered above the garden. The family's private truth was now a public scandal. Maria locked the doors. "This is madness," she muttered. Richard came down the stairs, calm but grim. "I suppose my test just turned into a lesson for the whole world." Ethan clenched his jaw. "We have to say something before the media twists it further." Sophie nodded. "They're calling you cruel, Dad. Manipulative, heartless." Richard sighed. "Maybe they're not wrong." Liam stepped forward. "Don't do that. Don't hide behind guilt. If you don't tell your side, they'll never know the truth." Richard looked at him. "And what is the truth, Liam? That I lied to the people I love because I didn't trust their love?" Liam held his father's gaze. "That you were human." That evening, the family gathered in the living room watching the news coverage play on TV. A reporter spoke dramatically. Open quote. "Sources confirm that billionaire Richard Cole faked a life-threatening illness to test the loyalty of his children. The shocking revelation has sparked outrage, with many calling his actions manipulative and emotionally abusive." Close quote. Sophie groaned. "They're painting you like a monster." Ethan turned off the TV. "We can't hide. We need to control the narrative." Richard shook his head. "I'm done controlling things. That's how we got here in the first place." Maria placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes the only way to silence lies is with truth, spoken with humility." He looked up at her. "You think I should go public?" "I think you should speak from your heart," she said softly. Liam nodded. "We'll stand beside you." Sophie added, "All of us." For the first time, Richard saw it. Not obligation, not guilt, but unity. He took a deep breath. "Then tomorrow morning, we talk." The next day, the family stood together before a line of reporters. Cameras flashed. Microphones reached forward like spears. Richard faced the crowd, his children flanking him. He looked older, but steadier, as if the truth had stripped away everything fake. He cleared his throat. "What you've heard is true," he began. "I pretended to be sick." A wave of murmurs rolled through the reporters. "I did it not for money or attention," he continued, "but because I was afraid. Afraid that my own family, the people I loved most, had forgotten how to love me back." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "I wanted to know if I still mattered when my wealth didn't. It was wrong, I see that now. But it also revealed something important, not just about my family, but about all of us. We wait until someone's dying to show we care. We save our love for funerals and regrets." He glanced at his children. "I learned that the real sickness isn't in the body. It's in the silence we keep." The crowd was still. Sophie stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. "I was angry at him. I still am. But he taught me something. Love isn't a post, a performance, or a show. It's showing up when no one's watching." Ethan added, "And forgiveness is harder than pride, but worth more than any inheritance." Liam smiled. "He didn't just test us, he woke us up." The cameras clicked relentlessly, but for once it didn't feel invasive, it felt necessary. Richard finished softly. "If you take anything from this, let it be this. Don't wait for goodbye to start caring. Don't wait for a lie to say the truth." He looked at the reporters. "That's all." They turned to leave. No questions, no chaos, just silence. And somehow that silence felt like healing. By the next morning, clips of the speech flooded social media. But the tone had changed. Comments read, open quote, "That was powerful. He owned his mistake. Maybe we all need that reminder," close quote. Even influencers who once criticised him began sharing his message about family and forgiveness. Sophie's follower count skyrocketed, but this time she didn't post a video. She wrote only one line, open quote, "Love people now, not later," close quote. It went viral within hours. Ethan, usually buried in numbers, closed his laptop and joined his father in the garden. "You know," Ethan said, "this might have been the best business lesson you ever taught me." Richard smiled faintly. "Which is?" "That the most valuable thing we own is time." They both laughed quietly. Days passed and life slowly returned to normal, or something like it. Maria resumed her calm rhythm around the house. Sophie started volunteering at the Cole Foundation, this time off camera. Ethan began mentoring young entrepreneurs for free. Liam, inspired by the experience, started writing a book about family and honesty. Richard often watched them from his study window, humbled, grateful, quiet. One evening as the sun set, Maria brought him tea. "You look peaceful," she said. He smiled. "For the first time I am." She sat beside him. "Do you ever regret it? The lie?" He thought for a long moment. "Every day, but I'd regret it more if it hadn't changed anything." Maria nodded. "Maybe truth isn't about being perfect. Maybe it's about being brave enough to face the mess." He chuckled. "If that's true, then we're the bravest family alive," she laughed softly. "I'll drink to that." That weekend, the entire family gathered for dinner. No cameras, no reporters, no scripts. Just warmth. Sophie poured wine. To Dad, for faking death just to bring us back to life. Everyone laughed. Richard raised his glass. "And to all of you, for forgiving me even when I didn't deserve it." Liam added, "To family, the only investment that never loses value." They clinked glasses as the fire crackled nearby. Outside, the media had moved on. But inside that house, something priceless had been rebuilt. Love. Later that night, Richard walked out into the garden. The stars shimmered above him. He whispered to the wind, "You'd be proud, Elaine." He could almost hear her voice reply, "I always was." He smiled. For once, the mansion didn't feel like a prison of wealth. It felt like home. If you watch till the end, you know the message. Family isn't about money, appearances, or fame. It's about love, forgiveness, and showing up before it's too late. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more emotional stories that touch the heart. But the words and the feeling would linger.